Irina Lourdes Fleur Baratella was born on January 28, 2002, in Córdoba, Argentina. She was the only daughter of Reinaldo Fleur and Veronica Baratella de Fleur. While little is known about her early childhood, later accounts suggest that Irina had a relatively normal upbringing. However, as she matured, she developed a rebellious and defiant character. Despite having a complicated relationship with her paternal family, the real cornerstones of her life were her mother, aunt, and maternal grandmother. When her mother Veronica passed away on December 19, 2014, Irina was just 12 years old. The loss had a profound impact on her, and her behavior worsened as time went on. She eventually started skipping school, and there were even rumors of her being expelled, though she denied this. As her rebelliousness grew, so did the tension with her father. Irina later claimed that Reinaldo mistreated her, making life with him unbearable, but these accusations didn't align with how family and friends viewed him. Those who knew Reinaldo described him as a kind, gentle man, a devoted father and husband. Born on August 20, 1960, Reinaldo was one of 3 children, though his father's name has not been disclosed. He had 2 siblings, Daniela and Enrique Fleur, and pursued a career as an architect. Following the death of his wife, he became the administrator of the assets she had left behind, a portion of which was inherited by Irina, who was still a minor at the time. Sources indicate that the estate comprised several properties, including 2 warehouses, a house, and a plot of land, all of which generated rental income. In addition to managing his late wife's assets, he also oversaw his own. Upon reaching retirement age, he began selling construction materials to yards and hardware stores and later worked as a consultant and member of a management team at a consulting firm in the years following Veronica's father's death. Reinaldo and his daughter Irina lived together in a house located on Avenida El Interior in the Los Boulevares neighborhood of Córdoba. However, according to statements from Reinaldo's family, tensions grew over time, with Reinaldo suffering significantly from the mistreatment inflicted by his own daughter. The discord stemmed largely from an inheritance dispute, reportedly fueled by Irina's controlling boyfriend as she neared adulthood. Irina was determined to take control of the assets left by her mother. Reinaldo's close associates claimed that Irina's hostile attitude intensified whenever her father began a relationship with another woman. They described her as rebellious, disobedient, and increasingly confrontational, having dropped out of school and demanding early access to rental payments in order to seize the cash. She would even damage or discard her father's belongings, making his life unbearable in an effort to force him out of the house. In her defense, Irina argued that her father's family had never cared for her or her mother. She accused them of harassing her and labeling her a hippie and green scarf advocate, a reference to her involvement in the feminist movement. The father-daughter relationship became even more strained in 2019, when Reinaldo met a woman named Miriam Sima. What started as a close friendship eventually blossomed into a deeper relationship a year later. Around the same time, Irina began dating a man 7 years her senior, Leandro Xavier Moscarello, adding yet another layer of complexity to the already fragile family dynamics. Leandro was born on May 2, 1995, in Córdoba to Estela Maris Vares Herrera and Elias Moscarello. He has at least one younger brother, Samuel, born on May 24, 1997. Although Leandro worked as a blacksmith and presented himself as a merchant, Reinaldo disapproved of the relationship, primarily due to Irina's youth. She was 17 at the time, while Leandro was 24. However, according to Miriam's later account, Reinaldo and Leandro initially appeared to get along well. Reinaldo gradually spent more time at the house until he practically moved in with them. However, he confided to his girlfriend that he was experiencing issues with his son-in-law, Leandro, whom he suspected might be dishonest. Reinaldo also opened up about the challenges in his relationship with his daughter, Irina, which Miriam said caused him great distress. Reinaldo deeply loved Irina and held out hope that she would change her behavior toward him, but his optimism would prove to be misplaced. Following Irina's 18th birthday in January 2020, she became increasingly insistent about her inheritance, with Leandro apparently joining her in these demands. Leandro, by some accounts, was seen as a manipulative figure who exerted considerable influence over Irina. Despite an inheritance settlement that distributed rental income from the properties, Irina continued to push for control over the entire estate, refusing to relinquish her legal battles with her father. Shortly thereafter, Irina became pregnant, news that was reportedly not well received by her father. Despite his reservations, Rinaldo had no choice but to accept Leandro's presence in their lives. On November 1, 2020, Irina and Leandro welcomed their daughter, Francesca. It was initially thought that the birth of the child might ease tensions between the couple and Rinaldo, but the opposite happened. In the months that followed, confrontations between the three escalated. There were even allegations of violence by Irina and Leandro against Rinaldo, as attested by those close to him, including his mother, his sister Daniela, and his girlfriend Miriam. All agreed that Rinaldo lived in fear of his daughter and son-in-law, to the point that he would lock himself in his room at night, securing the door to protect himself while he slept. During one particular heated argument, Rinaldo called the police. Later, when he tried to enter his own home, he discovered that Irina had changed the locks to keep him out. Desperate, Rinaldo reached out to his sister, informing her of the situation and asking for her help in finding a notary public to officially document the irregularities. Rinaldo eventually had enough and, after a brief stay at his mother's house, moved into a property located about 150 meters from the home he once shared with her, on the same street. After moving out of the house he once shared with his daughter on the road to the airport, Rinaldo hoped that the tensions would dissipate and his life would return to normal. However, he soon realized that this was merely the beginning and that the worst was yet to come. With Rinaldo gone, Irina was left to navigate the property with Leandro and their young daughter, Francesca. According to court records, the couple operated a pig farm and maintained a shed in the back where Leandro worked as a blacksmith, alongside his brother Samuel, who was a welder. They also rented tents for events and generated income from the properties belonging to Irina's inheritance, which remained under their management following an agreement with Rinaldo. Yet, it appeared that none of this was sufficient for Irina, who continued to pressure Rinaldo for more. Ramona, Irina's grandmother, claimed that Irina would resort to any action that could inflict harm on him. After moving out, Rinaldo sought to reclaim the two dogs he had cared for over the years, but when he went to retrieve them, he found them lifeless. Irina had allegedly poisoned them. During a conversation with Ramona, Rinaldo learned that Irina had also disposed of her grandfather's remains. She had previously requested that he take the urn containing her father's ashes to her, which is when she discovered Irina's heinous act. Despite the heartache and turmoil stemming from his daughter's actions, Rinaldo still held on to hope that Irina would reflect on her choices and change her life for the better, especially now that she was a mother. According to Daniela, Rinaldo endured unimaginable hardships for the love he had for his daughter, but there was a pervasive fear that the accumulating strain would eventually overwhelm him. Nevertheless, he attempted to move forward with his life, focusing on his work and his relationship with Miriam. By the end of 2021, after nearly 2 years of dating, they were planning to live together and embark on a culinary business venture. Rinaldo supported Miriam in all her endeavors, and as a symbol of their commitment, she gifted him a diamond ring, while he wore a gold ring in return. This gesture, however, seemingly triggered a new confrontation with Irina, who had previously opposed her father's happiness. The disputes escalated as both parties engaged lawyers, and it became evident that the initial agreement was beginning to unravel. Irina sought to claim everything her mother had left behind, despite the law stipulating that 50% of the estate belonged to the widower. According to later court records, Rinaldo confided in Miriam that Irina had threatened him with a knife on at least 2 occasions when they were still living together, forcing him to sleep in his car out of fear for his life. Leandro also issued threats against him. This distressing situation saddened Rinaldo, who deeply loved both his daughter and granddaughter and yearned for a peaceful resolution to their conflicts. No one could have anticipated that the tumultuous relationship between Rinaldo and his daughter would come to a tragic and abrupt end when calamity struck the Fleur family on Tuesday, September 28, 2021. It began as an ordinary day for Rinaldo. After completing his daily tasks, he met with Miriam and spent the rest of the afternoon at her house. He remained there until around 10 p.m., when he left in his grey Honda, heading home. Although they had initially planned for Miriam to accompany him for the night, she inexplicably felt it was best to stay behind, believing they would have ample time to share in the future. Little did she know that this would be the last time she would see her partner alive. The following day, Wednesday, September 29th, Daniela attempted to reach her brother repeatedly, as they had arranged to meet. Strangely, Reinaldo did not respond to her calls or messages, prompting her to contact Miriam to see if he was with her or if she knew his whereabouts. Miriam informed Daniela that they had seen each other the previous night and that he had left around 10 p.m. Concerned, Daniela urged her husband to accompany her to Reinaldo's house. When they arrived, they were confronted with a devastating scene. Reinaldo lay lifeless, bound to a chair, collapsed on the floor of his room. They immediately called emergency services. Within minutes, police units arrived and cordoned off the area. In the bedroom, authorities found the architect's body secured to the chair with plastic straps, bearing 2 gunshot wounds, one to the face and another to the neck. Initially, investigators suspected a robbery gone wrong, but as the investigation unfolded, they uncovered a far more sinister motive behind the crime. As the investigation progressed, authorities uncovered that the circumstances surrounding the crime were far more complex than initially believed. The television in the room was on at a high volume, likely to muffle the sound of the gunshots. Furthermore, there were no signs of forced entry through the doors or windows of the house. Items of value, including Reinaldo's computer, cell phone, wallet, and tablet, remained untouched, prompting investigators to verify with the family if anything had gone missing. Ramona, devastated by the loss of her son, stated during her initial interview with the police that if someone had been searching for valuables, it was likely they would have targeted Irina, Reinaldo's 20-year-old daughter, with whom he had a contentious relationship over control of his inheritance. Following this lead, officers proceeded to the home that Irina shared with Leandro. After informing her of her father's death, they requested her presence at the police station to provide a statement. Once at the station, detectives questioned Irina about her relationship with her father and the legal action she had taken to obtain control of the assets left by her mother. As they delved into the details, it became apparent that the detectives were suspicious of her involvement in her father's death. Irina vehemently denied having any issues with Reinaldo, let alone being implicated in the attack. She also refuted claims that she had changed the locks on the house while living there or that she had any intention of taking over the entire inheritance. After several hours of questioning and lacking sufficient evidence to detain her, Irina was released. Meanwhile, investigators continued their efforts to uncover the identity of the person responsible for the brutal attack on the 61-year-old man. The shocking details of the event reverberated throughout Cordoba, and the case soon evolved into one of the most sinister and disturbing crimes in Argentina. The Fleer family endured an unimaginable end to their year, grappling with the loss of one of their own. Just a few days later, on January 3, 2022, the results of the autopsy on Reinaldo's body were released. According to the forensic report, he had sustained 2 gunshot wounds, presumably from a .222 caliber shotgun. One projectile struck him in the right frontotemporal region, while the other impacted the anterior portion of his neck, causing instantaneous death. Unfortunately, the authorities had no means to compare the ammunition recovered from the body, as the murder weapon was never found. To concentrate their efforts on the inheritance dispute, investigators examined Reinaldo's circle of acquaintances. In addition to Irina, they scrutinized his partner and her associates. By analyzing his communications and movements on December 28, 2021, they uncovered critical information. On that day, Leandro was in constant contact with 3 men who quickly emerged as persons of interest in the investigation. These individuals were Samuel Mascalo, Reinaldo's younger brother, aged 24, David the Parrot; Silvestre, 23, a friend of the couple and owner of a black Ford K vehicle, whose relevance would soon become apparent; and David Negro Suarez, another friend of Leandro and Irina. Although there were no witnesses and neighbors interviewed claimed they had not heard any gunshots, a review of video surveillance footage provided vital evidence. The recordings confirmed that Reinaldo arrived alone at his residence at 10:46 p.m. After parking his car in front of the building, he unlocked the main gate and approached the house to open the garage door. At that moment, he was ambushed by 2 assailants who subdued him and dragged him into the house located in the Los Boulevares neighborhood. There, they bound him to a chair in his bedroom before fatally shooting him twice. Since the video footage did not show anyone else entering the front of the house, investigators suspected that the assailants had accessed the property from the rear. They began searching for corroborative evidence, specifically examining security camera recordings from a nearby business that overlooked the back of Reinaldo's residence, located on the old airport road. Upon reviewing several hours of footage, detectives observed a black Ford K vehicle repeatedly passing through the area in the hours leading up to the crime. The same camera captured the vehicle again shortly after 9:20 p.m., revealing two individuals exiting the car and heading toward the back of Reinaldo's house. However, further footage from other cameras did not show the men reappearing after they passed behind the residence. Investigators concluded that the suspects had likely entered the property through a broken and overgrown fence. Approximately 2 hours later, at around 11:20 p.m., the company's surveillance system recorded the same black Ford K vehicle returning to the area, presumably to pick up the two individuals. Allegedly, the vehicle was seen picking up the two individuals, who fled moments later. Armed with this information, the police began to trace the vehicle's route after it departed the scene and discovered that its stops coincided with the residences of three suspects: Samuel Moscarello, David Silvestre, and David Suarez. Telephone records confirmed their presence at the crime scene during the time of the murder. A little over a month after the horrific event, on the night of February 9, 2022, police arrested Irina Fleur, 20, and her partner, Leandro Moscarello, 26, at their home. Their 1-year-old daughter, Francesca, was left in the custody of her paternal grandparents. On the same day, Samuel Moscarello, David Silvestre, and David Suarez were also apprehended for their alleged involvement in the crime. Although their arrests were distressing, they did not come as a shock to Irina's family, who had suspected her from the outset. In interviews with local media, Ramona, Reinaldo's mother and Irina's grandmother, revealed that the father-daughter relationship had become increasingly tumultuous following Veronica's death and had deteriorated further after Irina began her relationship with Leandro. At that point, the dispute over the inheritance escalated dramatically. The 87-year-old woman recounted how her son had confided in her, expressing fears that he might be killed to eliminate him as a threat to Irina's inheritance. The revelation that his own daughter was allegedly involved in a plot to end Reinaldo's life left the family in disbelief, and the case quickly garnered national media attention. The suggestion that the crime may have been financially motivated only intensified public interest in the story. Following the arrests of the 5 individuals involved, all of whom were closely associated with the architect, the prosecutor in charge of the case held a press conference. She announced that she possessed sufficient and compelling evidence to charge Irina and her partner as the primary perpetrators of the crime, along with David Silvestre, Samuel Moscarello, and David Suarez as co-perpetrators. All 5 were charged with aggravated homicide due to the use of a firearm, with the potential for the charges against Irina and Leandro to be further aggravated by their familial relationship with the victim. The prosecutor also noted that, at the time of their arrest, the alleged perpetrators remained silent. She reiterated that the investigation was focused on determining whether the motive behind the murder was the inheritance. If convicted, the only sentence foreseen for these 2 men would be life imprisonment. In November 2023, the Prosecutor's Office for Family Violence announced that the case would be elevated to trial, with all 5 detainees accused of triple homicide, aggravated by the use of a firearm. It was reaffirmed that, in the event of conviction, the sentence would be life imprisonment. While the defense had not filed any appeals, delays in the legal process were attributed to intense contestation activities by Irina's lawyer, who requested house arrest for her so that she could care for her daughter. Despite these efforts, the young woman remained in jail in Barbados, awaiting trial, and refused to respond to various interview requests from national and local media. At an unspecified time, Irina ended her relationship with Leandro, which had faced significant strain amid the legal turmoil. However, she ultimately broke her silence in May 2024, granting an exclusive interview to a local television station. In the conversation, which took place in the prison library at Borba, the now 22-year-old discussed her relationship with her father, the crime and her life without her 3-year-old daughter, Francesca. Irina maintained her innocence, insisting that she was not implicated in her father's murder and expressing ignorance regarding the motives behind it, stating that Rinaldo was a good man who avoided trouble. Although she expressed sadness over her family's estrangement, she acknowledged their frustration with her behavior leading up to the crime. Furthermore, she denied having changed the locks on the house or causing harm to the dogs, attributing their deaths to old age and a pit bull attack, respectively. Irina mentioned that the only thing she regretted was meeting Leandro, expressing her desire to apologize to her family for the distress he had caused. She insisted that, despite attempts to portray a good relationship with her father, she had experienced mistreatment at his hands. Irina also indicated that she had suffered due to her partner's actions, from whom she claimed to have separated after discovering multiple infidelities. Regarding the other detainees, she stated that she recognized them only by sight, as Leandro had prevented her from maintaining contact with her friends. She explained that her brother worked as a blacksmith, and that the other two young men occasionally assisted him in the shed. In her closing remarks, Irina reiterated her desire to be reunited with her daughter, whom she could only see once a month in prison, and she implored her family for forgiveness. The trial against the 5 individuals implicated in this high-profile case began on July 1, 2024, in the 8th chamber of the crime, with a jury present. Irina and Leandro were accused as instigators of the crime, while Samuel and David Silvestre were charged as the material authors. David Silvestre was the owner of the Ford K vehicle seen at the crime scene, while David Suarez was presumed to have avoided direct involvement in the attack, opting instead to remain in the car as the driver. The prosecutor's office sought life imprisonment for all defendants, except for David Suarez, for whom a sentence of 15 years was proposed as a necessary participant. The prosecution built its case on meticulous investigative work that utilized technological resources, including call analysis, cell phone tracking, and the review of video surveillance recordings from nearby stores and residences, as well as the suspects' homes. The evidence left no room for doubt that this was a murder executed with premeditation and malice, driven by excessive greed and Irina's animosity toward her father. In her defense, Irina's lawyer requested her acquittal, asserting his confidence in her innocence and highlighting her youth and her role as a mother to a 3-year-old girl. During the second hearing on July 2nd, Irina took the floor to defend herself. She described the accusation of murdering her father as outrageous, especially since she was building a life for herself and caring for her child. She recounted a tormenting experience with both her ex-partner and her father, alleging that they had manipulated and hurt her psychologically, though she clarified that the abuse was not physical in nature. However, as testimonies were presented during the hearings, Irina's situation, particularly regarding her father, became increasingly precarious. One of the first witnesses was Miguel Ruiz, Rinaldo's brother-in-law and Irina's uncle-in-law, who asserted that Irina aimed to be the sole heiress of her father's estate, including his share of rental income from real estate and personal possessions. On July 22nd, Daniela Fleer testified that her brother's only enemy was Irina, who sought to eliminate him in order to seize his wealth. She detailed incidents where Rinaldo felt threatened by his daughter, reinforcing the narrative of familial conflict. Later that week, Miriam spoke about her relationship with Rinaldo, describing it as very positive. She characterized him as an excellent person, a man of integrity, and highly respected until the time of his murder. Irina and Leandro were identified as the presumed culprits. Among other revealing details, she recounted that Rinaldo had expressed fears on multiple occasions about potential attempts on his life, specifically mentioning, "I'm afraid that a blow to my head will come," and that he slept with the house keys under his pillow. He kept the keys downstairs and locked the bedroom door at night. The case took an unexpected twist when 2 of the accused, Samuel Moscarello and David Silvestre, confessed to being the material authors of the crime. They attempted to distance Irina from their father's murder, asserting that it was solely their plan and execution, denying any broader conspiracy to kill the architect. While this confession provided a new perspective on the case, it remained to be seen whether the jury would believe their statements. As the trial progressed, the defendants were given the opportunity to express their final words before the jury, the prosecuting and defense attorneys, and the families present in the courtroom. When it was Irina's turn to speak, she broke down in tears, once again denying any connection to the crime. She reiterated much of what she had said in her initial statement, anticipating the court's ruling. She expressed her fear of receiving a life sentence, stating that it would strip her of her ability to be a mother and live with her daughter. "I feel a lot of fear and terror since that night," she said. "I have spasms. I feel bad because I am going to be sentenced to life imprisonment at 22 years old, with a 3-year-old daughter out there, for a crime I did not commit and in which I did not participate at any time. I just want to clear my name. I want to go home to my daughter. That is all I want." In his intervention, Leandro also denied any involvement in the crime, suggesting that Samuel's actions had harmed him and stating that he neither was present at the scene nor provided any information to the assailants. The defendants collectively apologized to the Fleur family and urged the jury to reconsider their case, insisting they were not guilty. The media reported that they claimed they went to Reinaldo's house to rob it and attributed the incident to an accident. Undoubtedly, one of the most dramatic moments during the hearing was when Ramona de Fleer exercised her right to speak as a member of the victim's family before the debate concluded. The now 88-year-old woman addressed her granddaughter directly, asking, "Why did you do it? Why did you take your father's life if you had everything?" Emotion choked her voice, prompting the presiding judge to request a glass of water for her. After regaining her composure and with her gaze still fixed on Irina, she repeated her question, "Why did you do it?" At that point, Ramona burst into tears, sobbing quietly for some time. In her closing arguments, the prosecutor reiterated that long-standing disagreements between father and daughter had revolved around inheritance issues. She emphasized that their tense relationship was crucial in establishing the motive for the crime, noting that a month before the murder, Irina had requested the division of the family assets. Finally, on August 30, 2024, the court and the people's jury unanimously found Irina Lourdes Fleur Baratella and her partner, Leandro Xavier Moscarello, guilty of quadruple homicide, aggravated by their relationship and the premeditated involvement of multiple persons. They were sentenced to life imprisonment. Samuel Moscarello and David Silvestre received the same sentence after being found responsible for a triple homicide, aggravated by their connection and participation in the crime. David Suarez was considered a secondary participant and received a sentence of 13 years in prison, taking into account his confession and role in the events. According to Argentine legislation, the verdict delivered by the technical court and the people's jury may be appealed before the criminal cassation chamber of the Supreme Court of Córdoba. Following the announcement of the verdict, Ramona was among the first to express her thoughts. She stated that she never imagined her granddaughter could commit such an act. However, during the trial, she witnessed the extent of Irina's actions and her voice broke as she spoke about the mistreatment of her son. She remarked that there was nothing to forgive, as everything had already been done. With deep regret, she lamented that she no longer had either her son or her granddaughter. Daniela expressed similar sentiments, stating that although justice had been served, they had lost 2 family members. Later, in September, the Criminal and Correctional Chamber of the 8th Nomination in Córdoba announced the grounds for the life sentences imposed on Irina and her partner. The court concluded that the motive for Reinaldo Fleur's homicide stemmed from an exaggerated appetite for wealth on the part of his daughter and son-in-law. The sentencing detailed that the crime aimed to make Irina the sole heir to her father's estate, allowing Leandro to benefit from the administration of that wealth, estimated at approximately $26,648.75. According to the court, the trigger for the crime was a gold ring that Leandro saw on Reinaldo's hand before the murder, which they interpreted as a symbol of an impending marriage. If Reinaldo died unmarried, his daughter would inherit everything. Analysis of surveillance cameras and the phones of those involved revealed that 24 hours prior to the murder, the accused had met in the house shared by Irina and Leandro to coordinate the details of the crime. The participation of Irina Fleur, 22, and Leandro Mascalo, 28, was not merely as planners. They facilitated the execution of the crime by providing key information and the weapons necessary for the attack. Samuel Mascalo, Leandro's brother, and David Silvestre, both 27 years old, assaulted the architect upon his arrival at his home, while David Suarez, 26, acted as the getaway driver. The court ruled out robbery as a motive and dismissed the possibility that the 2 shots that killed Reinaldo were accidental. Following the conviction, the Fleer family plans to disinherit Irina to ensure she never benefits from the assets that led her to orchestrate her father's death, aiming to bring definitive closure to a tragedy that devastated their family and shocked the people of Cordoba. However, there was no mention of how this measure would affect little Francesca, who remained under the care of the Moscarello family. Now that you know the details of this dramatic story, do you believe this crime could have been avoided? Do you agree with the convictions of all those involved? We would love to read your thoughts in the comments, as your opinions on these cases are very important to us. We always approach these topics with the utmost respect for the victim, the viewers, and all those involved. Before you leave, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to share this video with anyone you think might be interested. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in our next criminal investigation. Goodbye.